Hello, this is Krista again. I want to discuss a little bit today about drug addiction and basically any other kind of addiction, even how small or not considered so dangerous. But any kind of addiction that a person can have to anything, be it a TV watching, just, addiction, games, foods, drugs. And in my case, I'm going to be talking about drugs today. And, okay, I just want to explain a little bit, introduce myself a little bit more and about my life, and I'm going to title this one, Your Kids Will Do What You Do. Your kids will follow you in your footsteps, and they will do everything that you do, most of the time. Unless they maybe can see how bad it is and then they decide not to follow it. But most of the times unconsciously, children I found this out the hard way, but they are like baby chicks. Even in their 20s. I mean, they're still have not grown all the way and matured all the way yet inside of themselves, even physically, and like inside of their minds and stuff, and they will just waddle and follow you around and do whatever you're doing. And so if you are setting a bad example, like if you do not get the recovery work that you need or the real healing work to really begin yourself on your recovery and come to mastery of it and everything, because you are not finished until you come into the mastery of recovering from any kind of addiction that you fall under. So I'm just going to tell you a quick story about what happened to mine. It's kind of a sadder one. I know that all addictions can be sad, but this one did include jail. And so, I came from a pretty good background, and I got into some stuff like I shouldn't have, like when I became a stripper, and was forced to live with a narcissistic type of individual. I was forced into a situation more of staying with this partner more and more and not being able to handle things at home, and my children were left with my parents and under their supervision more and more. As I was kept away from them and kind of more or less made to drink on the job, and then I just kind of became an alcoholic for a number of years, and and sometimes possibly drugs on the side. Of course, I've always loved and cared very much for my children. A person always does. And you do want what's best for them. So, at least I thought I was leaving them in care with my parents and they would raise them well. Little did I realize that I would still constantly be around them, go back home all the time and be with them as much as I could. But not seeing that the role model that I played was still a bad one. And you have to be a good role model. I mean, no matter what, you can tell those kids what to do and what not to do, and do not follow in your footsteps and all this stuff, but not one bit of that is going to make a lick of difference. And I'll tell you why. Because you cannot change another person. Another person cannot change you or what you're thinking or what your choices may be. You are in charge of that. You yourself. You cannot force someone else to change or do something different that you don't want them to do. It is absolutely impossible. It might work for a little while, but in the end, that person will just go back to what they want to do. Okay, So, I'm going to just basically say here that, you know, you have to be a good role model. And that will start with your own healing and recovery process. Um, and my story goes that what happened to us was kind of sad because, I always felt more alone because my boyfriend was abusive. He wasn't really there for me or us. He didn't really even know my children. It's kind of a really pathetic story. Um, I was left to care for his. I would bring the groceries home in there. I would bring groceries home in two places and at home for my children. So I worked very, very, very hard during that time. Physically, I was exhausted. Plus, I became an addict, an alcoholic on the side. So, what happened was after I left my abusive boyfriend and stopped making money at the bar because of the economic times, I really wanted to escape and get out of it. But unfortunately, because I already had an alcohol problem, I fell in love with another alcoholic and left. And the only good part of that was finding another job, which I became. Excuse me, that was my cat. Taxi driver. But I was desperate to find something else. And so, but still, I had this problem that I was an addict. And so my new alcoholic boyfriend and I were still partying all the time. And I tried to come home to my kids during that time, but still I just did not get any help, had not gotten any help yet. And I didn't even realize that I had a problem. I thought I was just playing with it and I could handle it and everything. Not the case, not the true case, as I was to find out later. But during this time, we got involved with methamphetamine from a pot dealer of his. And everything just became unglued after that. Of course, if anybody's ever done methamphetamine, you know that it can just destroy everything in its path in that quick of a time. And it wasn't long before my children, my son at that time had become addicted to the Adderall that he was on and prescribed, and then started using methamphetamine at his schools. And also, my oldest 23-year-old daughter was began using meth with her boyfriend, which methamphetamine is oftentimes big in the factories. Up here, there's a lot of RV factories where I live, and there was a lot of drugs in those. So she got introduced to that at not only her work, but, a lot of different sources, like her ex was in jail for making before. So anyways, no names here. But it was nasty. So, yeah, they found out during that time that I was also using, and well, of course, that made it more okay for them, and it just went like little ducks, quack, quack, mama duck, like that. And, I'd never seen anything more insane before, and my heart just tore up with the thought that they ever even would touch anything like that, That's a mother's worst nightmare. But yeah, it went on from there that CPS finally took my children, and things are better now. Of course, I've been sober from everything for 2 years, and kids are coming back now, and a lot of healing is being done throughout this time with a lot of classes and therapy and work on myself, and also they have been through a lot of classes themselves. But my oldest daughter did end up going to jail and did prison